Very desperate President Obama goes to Capitol Hill, all in a last-ditch effort to try and save his disastrous health care law. And that is tonight's opening monologue. All right, so Obamacare has been a monumental failure, but that is not stopping the president and Democrats from trying to save it. Now, after huddling on Capitol Hill earlier today, well, left-wing congressional leaders, they dusted off the same old, tired, divisive rhetoric. They want to scare you, the American people, about those wascally Republicans repealing and replacing Obamacare. The same old talking points. Take a look.
The Republican plan to cut health care wouldn't make America great again. It would make America sick again.
They have no replacement plan. They have no replacement plan because they can't. They can't agree. They don't have the votes. So to repeal and then delay is an act of cowardice. That means we don't really know what we're doing.
And they want to repeal it and then try to hang it on us. Not going to happen. It's their responsibility, plain and simple. Now they're going to own it. And all the problems in the health care system, and there have been many throughout the years, no one has solved all of them, are going to be on their back.
Really, Democrats, they now want to claim that Republicans, they're to blame for breaking Obamacare? Well, that's just a big, flat-out lie. And you know what? They know that because Obamacare is already broken, and it's failing you, the American people, miserably. Now, we're going to show you the numbers that prove all of this in just a minute. But at the same time, President Obama, he ran to Capitol Hill. Now, Vice President-elect Mike Pence, he was meeting with the Republicans at that time to formulate the plan to repeal and replace this disastrous law. Now, here's what he said right after. Take a look.
The first order of business is to repeal and replace Obamacare. Obamacare has failed, and the American people have sent a decisive message to Washington, D.C., that they want Obamacare to be repealed and replaced with health care reform that will lower the cost of health insurance without growing the size of government.
All right, now, Republicans, they need to make sure, one, they keep their promises and also move very quickly to repeal and replace Obamacare, which, by the way, they appear to be on track to do. But they also need to be careful because Democrats have already shown, well, they're not going to be blaming themselves when Obamacare finally dies and crumbles. Now, President-elect Trump, he issued this warning to the GOP and his colleagues earlier today. He tweeted out, in part, quote, Republicans must be careful in that the Dems own the failed Obamacare disaster with its poor coverage and massive premium increases like the 116% hike in Arizona. Also, deductibles are so high that it is practically useless. Don't let the Schumer clowns out of this web. Now, the president-elect is 100% right. Republicans need to make President Obama and the Democrats own every lie they told, every failed promise they didn't keep, and remember all the times the president, remember this? Remember all the times he said this.
No matter how we reform health care, we will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you will be able to keep your health care plan. Period. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan.
There's no doubt that we must preserve what's best about our health care system, and that means allowing Americans who like their doctors and their health care plans to keep them.
If you've got health insurance, you like your doctor, you like your plan, you can keep your doctor, you can keep your plan. Nobody is talking about taking that away from you.
Oh, really? Now, he also said the average family would save, on average, $2,500 per family per year. Well, since 2009, the average American family is paying $4,100 more. Now, we also know that what the president said about keeping your doctor and plan, that they were lies because millions of Americans lost their doctors, millions lost their plans, and that is just the start of this Obamacare disaster. Now, here's what the president and Democrats own themselves. Now, remember, this is their plan. This is their fault because not a single Republican voted for this law. Now, Obamacare premiums this year alone are increasing by 25% on average. And in Arizona, like we mentioned, well, they'll rise by this year alone 116%. Now, premiums on average for a family of four making $60,000 a year, well, that's going to spike by 43.6%. Deductibles for the same group are exploding by 22.9%. But the misery for you, the American people, it doesn't end there. Now, the president promised free market competition and choices for Americans on the exchanges. Sadly, the opposite has happened. Major insurers like Humana, Aetna, United, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, they're all pulling out of states because they are losing money on the exchanges. Humana alone, they said they lost over $1 billion just for participating in Obamacare. In states like Alabama, Alaska, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Wyoming, people buying on the exchanges, they only have one single insurer to choose from now. On top of that, the numbers of health care insurance providers to choose from on healthcare.gov, well, that's going to drop just 28% this year alone. And then there's all the taxes. The Congressional Joint Committee on Taxation has previously found that the middle class will face $377 billion in tax increases courtesy of Obamacare. And according to a recent study, the surging Obamacare premiums will cost you, the American taxpayer, an extra $9.8 billion this year alone. So the negative impact of Obamacare is obvious. You, the American people, have felt it directly, which is in part one of the reasons why so many voted for President-elect Trump. Now, yes, there are certain aspects of the law that Republicans will keep, like the issue of pre-existing conditions. But Obamacare itself is a single, fundamental, massive, big government failure that needs to be completely scrapped and redone so we can offer better care, more free market competition, and, of course, lower costs for the American consumer. And tonight, there are just 16 days until the Obama nightmare ends. Now, we're going to show you on the side of our screen tonight statistics how bad things have been under this president in the past 8 years. The facts the mainstream media will never give you. Joining us now with reaction, the author of the best-selling book Treason. He's the former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor, Newt Gingrich. You know, here's a pretty funny thing. So the president-elect goes to the Capitol Hill today, meets with Democrats in the House and Senate, and then he says, don't help the Republicans repeal and replace Obamacare. And then he suggests that they start referring to the GOP plan as Trump care. So what part of these statistics does the president not want to face? Because it doesn't look good any which way you measure the actual impact of this law.
Well, I mean, look, you've watched Barack Obama now for 9 years. He doesn't want to face anything. He's going to go to Chicago to give his farewell address without noticing the almost 4,000 people shot in his hometown in the last year alone. He doesn't understand anything about foreign policy, and he's in total denial about his health plan. And remember, one of the major reasons this economy is moving so slowly is the enormous burden that Obamacare has put on the economy, on small business, on startups, on entrepreneurs. The result is, you know, I'm happy to take his suggestion, by the way. Let's compare Trump care with Obamacare. Let's see a year from now whether or not President Trump and the Republicans can't do a whole series of things that improve access, lower costs, are more honest with the American people, give them greater choices, get the Washington bureaucracy out of the way. And I think that people like Dr. Tom Price are very committed to having a Trump care that's a heck of a lot better than Obamacare. So let's take him up on his challenge, and we'll see a year from now how many Democrats want to run for re-election
free market
in 2018 defending the old order.
Free market competition, portability,
Absolutely.
taking your health care from job to job, buying across state lines. That competition is only going to lower costs, increase the services that people will get. That is economics 101. Here's what I want to ask you. So if Donald Trump, because the president did not respect separation of powers, co-equal branches of government, if the first 3 or 4 hours of the Trump administration is to sign away and rescind all those executive orders, and the next thing is Donald Trump signs into law a repeal law of Obamacare, then the only thing that I see left that Obama's legacy is about would be refugees he's let into the country, some of whom may commit crimes in the future, the judges he appointed, and the $10 trillion in debt. It will almost be, and tell me if I'm wrong, it will almost be as if he didn't exist for the last 8 years.
No, and he'll get a nice portrait in the White House. All presidents get nice portraits. So,
but isn't it profound?
He'll have a nice portrait. Oh, look, I've told people, this is like one of those dolls that you watch the air come out of it and it shrinks and shrinks. By the time you get to Easter, the Obamacare, the Obama legacy is going to be so small, you're going to need a microscope to find it. I think that no president in my lifetime, maybe no president in modern history, will have had as small an impact as Barack Obama, because he lied to the American people over and over again. He failed to work with the Congress. He tried to do everything by executive order, and executive orders last exactly as long as the president. So he's going to be very sobered by summer, watching virtually everything he thought he accomplished go away.
So I'm putting up the economic statistics on the side of the screen so our audience can see it for themselves tonight. But then you look on foreign policy, there's no Russian reset. Things are worse than ever. Our relations with Israel are worse than ever. I don't think anybody would argue the Iranian deal is any good, or Iraq is better off, or Afghanistan is better off. Our relationship with North Korea or China is better off. What foreign policy success does he cite?
I think
Benghazi?
Well, Cuba.
Okay, is that a success? Really?
He's much closer to the Castro dictatorship than any American president's ever been. So I guess he could cite Cuba as his great success. Not that it did anything for the Cuban people, but it made Obama feel good.
You know, Mike.
No, but here's.
Go ahead.
You know, is that people who want to get into the middle class have a harder time now. Obama has pushed according to the Gallup studies, he's pushed 25 million people out of the middle class in his 8 years. Now, that's an extraordinary negative achievement.
Let me ask you this last question. Every